Hi class, in this video I'm going to talk about wireframes. In the last video I discussed information architecture, abbreviated as IA, and I talked a little bit about how information architectures are presented in a sitemap. So you have sort of the architecture thought about in your head, you have a sense of what it should be. To get that down on paper and share it with others, you create a sitemap. The sitemap can be really helpful when you have stakeholders who need to be updated on the progress of the site. They want to know what's going on with the site. You can bring that sitemap in and you can show them, you know, this is the organization we're looking at making. So from here we can build the site. And you'll use that sitemap to inform the design of your site. So for homework for the sitemap portion, you're going to conduct a 5-person card sorting study and write about your results. So what you'll need to do is come up with at least 10 note cards of content areas on your site and run a card sorting study with those cards. And based on that study, you're going to draft a sitemap. So based on what people put in groups, you're going to create a sitemap. You're basically making the main navigation of your website. Now, when you create cards, think about the topics. Go back to your strategy document and look at the topics that you said your buyer segment needs to know about in order to get your message. And that's a great starting point for creating cards. But remember, you don't want to put on each card just the name of a section. So don't just put about on your card. Put the information you want on that side. So you want to visit your topic map, but you need to be more specific than your topic map is. Look at each of your topic areas and think of the kinds of content that would be in those topic areas. For example, if you're working with Ball State and you have a program requirements topic area, what specifically in that section would people need to know? Maybe number of credit hours a student needs, how to declare a major, things like that. Put those on your cards. Also think about what kind of blog categories you might have. So think about your topics in terms of the kinds of things you could write about your topics that would interest people. So for example, if one of your topic areas is choosing a school, you're targeting high school students, and you think it's important that they learn how to choose a good school, and by the way, it should be Ball State, then, and that's kind of what you're saying in your messaging, is that Ball State is the greatest place for this buyer segment for this reason, you know, whatever reason you've come up with. Think about the kinds of posts you can write that would help a person in high school. So maybe you do posts about how to pick the best school for you. What kind of category could you make that in? Maybe an advice category, maybe a how-to category. So think about what kind of categories you can have. To do that, think about the kinds of blog posts and the kinds of information you want to provide to your audience in order to give them content they are hungry for that also shows your credibility. So you don't have to be super literal here. I think one of the mistakes is that when coming up with content for a blog, people think that every single piece of content has to be directly selling your client. And that's really not what content strategy is about. Content strategy exists because that kind of direct selling doesn't work. You have to earn your audience online. And one way you earn the audience is to give the audience something they already need, something they're already hungry for, advice, tips, accounts of your personal experience and how others can learn from it. So think about your blog categories in that way as well. What can you offer your buyer that they want anyway that doesn't necessarily directly sell your product or your service, but shows your credibility? So for example, if you are making a client site for a temp agency, sure, you could put a bunch of blog categories that are, you know, types of jobs we have, information about employers we use. But remember, you're earning an audience, and if people see that on your site, they might not really care because all of that information is about you. It's not about your audience. It's about your, you know, you're the temp agency. It's about the jobs you offer. It's about the employers you offer. What can you offer your buyer segment, people who want to work at a temp agency, who are finding a temp agency to work at? Well, what are their concerns? You guys all did research into buyer concerns. In this example, concerns would be, you know, finding enough work throughout the week, tips for making a better resume to get better temp work, tips for balancing temp work with another job maybe. tips for job searching, because people don't go to temp agencies because they want to be a temp their whole life. So blog categories could be things like resumes, how to work on your resume. It could be things like the job search, tips for finding a job. And all of these things are information that your audience wants anyway, but you want them to come get it from you, because they'll associate you as being really friendly, really helpful, and when they do need a temp job, they'll remember your business. Your business helped them out when they had tough times. So don't forget, when you come up with types of categories for your cards, that you're not just talking about yourself. It's not all about pages. It's not all about your services. It's not just products, services, about, contact. You have to give your audience something. What kinds of things can you give them that are helpful in their lives, that are not necessarily directly selling your business? So just a little tip there. Let's move on and look at some examples of sitemaps, because after you do your card sorting, you're going to create a sitemap. And here's an example. We've looked at the inside stitch from Vera Bradley quite a bit. And this is a sitemap showing the sort of first level of site organization on their site. So there's a home page, and from the home page you can access a sidebar which has all of these materials in it: categories, archives, sign up to get a newsletter, archives, and social media. And then you can see for each I've listed any specifics. So for categories, I listed all the categories. For the social media, I listed all the social media. And then there's a main menu that has home, about, and contact. And these don't break up any further. About, you can't really go anywhere from the about page except back to the home page. Same with contact page. You can't go anywhere from contact except back to the home page. Let's take a look at wireframes.com, which we've looked at quite a bit as well. They have a very similar setup, and this time I just did it a little bit differently. I put all the social media in blue. On wireframes.com, the social media is all up in the header, so I put it up with home to sort of indicate that it's all accessible from everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, RSS, and link to apply. And from the home page, you can access contributors, categories, archives, and resources. And from contributors, you can access categories. From categories, you can access archives. So I drew lines between those as well, showing sort of the different ways you can move around on the site. You can go from home to categories to contributors back to home. You go from home to archives to contributors back to home. And then again, for each, I just listed the specifics. So for contributors, they list everyone by name. I didn't write everyone's name because I think this gets the point across. These are all the drop-down items that you see under contributors. Categories, if you hover over categories, these are all the categories you see. Let me pull up WRIU. So if I hover over categories, sororities, freshman year, IU residence halls, fraternities, and so on. And so you see that reflected here as well. And then archives, listed by month. I just put by month instead of listing all the months. We all know what the months are. And then resources. This is what you see when you hover over resources. So this allows me to get a sense of what my navigation bar is, what I need on the home page in addition to that navigation bar, and what goes with all of these sections. So these are all the categories, these are all the contributors, and these are all the resources. Last but not least, let's look at your portfolio site. Your portfolio site is organized pretty similarly. You have an about page, a resume page, portfolio, blog, and contact. And from every page, you can access Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn because it's in your sidebar, so I put those up at the top. And again, you see lines. I can go home to blog, to portfolio, to resume, to home, to about, so I can move among all of those. And then I just listed categories for each. So portfolio, these are the different categories on the portfolio. For the blog, the only category is uncategorized because I didn't have you make categories. If you're going to keep your portfolio site, you might want to do something like thoughts on PR, social media, critiques. I mean, you can come up with categories, but you would make more categories if you wanted to keep that blog. So I hope that gives you sort of an understanding of how to draw out your sitemap. You just want to show what the navigation is and anything that's accessible from the home page. Now, some sites have a lot more going on than these. Some sites will have a third layer of items down here because from about you could go to other pages. You saw some examples in your reading, but for what you guys are doing, you're not going to have very big sites, so you'll probably have something more like this. So let's move on to wireframes. I want to introduce the concept of wireframes and talk a little bit about how you make them. So after you draft the sitemap, the next step is to create wireframes. Wireframes are sketches of all the different page types of a website showing where the content goes. So wireframes are, they're called wireframes because you basically just take a piece of graph paper and you draw out squares representing all the different content of the website. So if we look at these examples, here on the left I have the home page. I've sketched a wireframe for the Ball State website. So you can see it's called a wireframe because I'm just using boxes that look like sort of wires, and frame because I'm just using the boxes to show what goes inside of it. So I have my secondary navigation here. I have my navigation. I've sketched out my header. I have the little left and right arrows. So you get a sense of where everything on this site goes. And that's the purpose of a wireframe, is to communicate to yourself and to stakeholders what the site's going to look like in terms of where everything goes. You made a sitemap, so you know what your navigation looks like. Now you're showing it in action with examples of content. Now, what do I mean by page types? Because with wireframes, you create different page types. What I mean is that websites could have hundreds of pages. A site like the New York Times probably has 100,000 or so pages. And it would be kind of crazy to have to draw a wireframe for every single one of those. Most websites only have a couple kind of pages. For example, if we go to WeAreIU again. Oh, actually, you know what? I have a screenshot for this. If we go to WeAreIU, you can see if you click on a person's name to see everything they've written, it looks like this. So this is Jessica Frampton's page with everything she's written. If I go to Michaela Beatty's page, it looks exactly the same, except it's Michaela's and not Jessica's. So there's no point in drawing this page twice. Instead of drawing, there's like 13 or 14 people who contribute to the site. It's a waste of time to draw 13 or 14 wireframes. They're going to look the same. So instead of drawing 13 or 14 different ones, you would just draw one and you would say, this is what all the student pages look like. So for example, here in the Ball State wireframe, here's the front page. All pages that just have information look like this. So this is specifically the About page, but the journalism page looks like this. The TCOM page looks like this. The only difference is the sidebar. So we could sort of shorten our wireframing by making just one example of what this kind of page looks like. And I just want to point out some areas of this wireframe so you get a sense of how detailed your wireframes need to be. You can see that I've included navigation labels, so I created names for all the menu items and I've written them here. Well, I mean, I used Ball State's example, but you're going to create your own. And then I sort of drew a little crude reproduction of the header, so it's obvious where the header goes. Wherever there was a photo, I tried to give some idea of what the photo is. This is obviously a photo of people. I don't need to be really detailed showing what they're doing. I just want to show that, hey, I want this to be a picture of people. And then you can see I have section titles. So these are two blogs that are featured, and the blogs have titles. So I've put those titles in so that when looking at this wireframe, you can tell it's a blog. And then news and events is labeled, so you can tell that this would be news and events, although it didn't seem necessary to write in all the details of the news. Over here in the About page, I did the same. I have the navigation labels. I have sort of a crude reproduction of the header. I have the navigation labels down here. Now this page has navigation on the side as well, so I've added that, and I've shown exactly what I want them to be. So YBSU, Factbook, Visit Campus. I have to show what exactly is accessible from this page. And then you can see I've created section titles. So on the About page, yes, I want an About, but I also want a section called Focus. And then there's more that I didn't draw for the sake of space. And then there's a photo right here, so I drew a picture of smiley faces again to show that this would be a photo of people. So one mistake I see a lot with wireframes is that people just draw boxes for everything. And that's not very helpful. You should be able to take this wireframe to your client and show it to them, and they should have a sense of what the site's going to be, and they should be able to look at your navigation and read the labels and give you feedback on whether or not they think those labels are correct. They should be able to look at the different sections and let you know if they think those sections are correct, if they think that the kind of photos you want to use are available and make sense. So for homework, I want you to use graph paper to draw the home page of your site, and then I want you to choose one additional page type. So it could be, you could choose the about page, or you could draw a blog page and draw that out as well. I'm not going to have you do more than that because, again, you have a pretty small site. I think it would be kind of redundant. And for the sake of time, I think the home page and one additional page will still give you a really good sense of what your site needs to look like. Now, this is a little bit of a challenging assignment because you're using WordPress themes, and so you can't just draw whatever you want. Something like this, if you drew this out, it would be almost impossible to find a WordPress theme that does exactly what you need it to do. You would need a WordPress theme that has a menu, a header, a menu, a slider, 2 blog posts with people, news and events with 4 boxes, and then a footer. It's going to be kind of hard to find exactly what you want. So you're going to do this a little bit opposite. When you're building a website from scratch, yes, draw a wireframe however you want it. Make it your unique vision. But when you're working with WordPress, you have to find your theme first. So you switch the order. You want to look at themes that are available to you and then draw a wireframe based off of that. I have a short 4-minute video posted after this video that shows you exactly how to do that. How to, once you've chosen a theme, make a wireframe from it. And I just want to give a little bit of advice about choosing a WordPress theme. For this class, Ball State has purchased themes for you. So there's a lot of free themes. Sometimes they can be hard to use. There's a lot of great paid themes, but they can be really expensive. So Ball State has purchased themes for you, and you can see them by going to woothemes.com, and there's a link in the course Blackboard. So woothemes.com, you want to click on themes, all themes, and you'll see a list of themes. Now, we purchased these themes last semester, so these first 2 rows, unfortunately, we don't have. They were made since we bought them. So Hub, Upstart, Maximize, For the Cause, Show Off, and Memorable, I don't believe we have those. So do not choose one of those. But after that, we have everything. So On Topic, Peddler Resort, everything underneath that, all the way to the end of page 3 are available to you. So here's my advice for choosing a theme. Go to Woo Themes and start looking for the kind of theme that you want. By the way, to get the theme, you'll download it from a Google folder that I've shared with you. So start looking at these themes and think about the kind of content you have for your site. Look at your sitemap. What kind of content do you need to get on here? All of these themes have 2 options. You can have either a front page or blog postings on your front page. So I'm going to go to Merchant is a good example. If I click on Merchant, and then I click Demo, I can see what this theme looks like. And here's what the front page looks like. Now you'll notice this has some sections. It has a video section for a slider. You have a features section where you can write a little bit about the features of your organization, product, or service. There's a portfolio section, a promotional section, a feedback section, a store. You can generally turn off these sections. So if you don't want a store, you can just ignore this. On your wireframe, just don't include it. If you don't want the store, just act like it doesn't exist, and you don't have to put it on your site. You guys know this because when you worked on your portfolio, you turned the testimonials off, and you had to turn the mini features and the portfolio on. So you know that the front page, the home page, has different sections you can turn on and off. So you can have a slider, or if you don't want that, you can ignore it. You can have features. If you don't want that, you can ignore it. You can have work. If you don't want that, you can ignore it. Or instead of our work, you could make this something else, like a photo gallery. Instead of saying our work, you could put photo gallery, and you could have 4 photos. Promotion, you can change that. You can make it sign up for updates or take a quiz. something like that, or you can just not have it. So you have two options for WordPress. Either have a front page with the elements that you want, or if I click on blog, you'll see the site becomes a blog. The second option is to just have this as your site. If you don't want a front page, if you look at all of those features and you say to yourself, I don't want any of that, then look at the blog and see if you would rather have that be the front page. So you could set this site to have this as the front page. So if you don't like the features that you see on the front page, if you come here and you say, I don't want any of this stuff, check the blog and think about, do I want this? Do I want this to just be my homepage? People just come here and they see it looking like this. Just as another example, I'm going to choose another theme. I'm going to pick Athena, wherever that is. There it is. So I click on Athena, click Demo, and so we have a menu bar, we have the slider, we have recent work. If I don't want it to be recent work, I can make it something else. Like I can make this links to other pages or something. Shopping collection, no, don't have that, so I can just get rid of that. Here's about, recent posts, Instagram, subscribe. These I can change. So where it says recent posts, I could put something else. Where it says Instagram, I could do something else there. I could get rid of subscribe and put something else. So all of these are changeable. But if I look at this and I say, I don't want the slider, I don't want work, I don't want shopping, and I don't want all this stuff down here, then click on the blog and see if you'd rather have that. Would I rather just have this be the front page? And my suggestion here is to really think about what you need to do with your site. If your site is very information heavy, you know, if you really have to explain a lot to your visitors, if you have a blog, but you also have to have a page about how to apply, you also have to have a page about requirements for application, you also have to have a page about Ball State in general, then you might think about using the home page. The nice thing about the home page is you can put different kinds of content in one site, you know, in one page. So if you just want people to come and look at the blog, much like Inside Stitch, it's just a blog, then choose the blog. If you want to get people interested in a couple different things, if you want them to know about the blog and read it, but you also have products you want to feature, or you also have upcoming events that you want to feature, then you might think about using the home page. If you have any questions about what type of page, homepage or blog, or which theme is right for you, please don't hesitate to ask. I would be happy to provide some advice for that. I've worked with most of these themes, so I'm pretty familiar with how they work and what areas can be dropped off, like if you can take products off the front page. So if you have any concerns, just shoot me an email or a chat and I would be glad to help. I'm going to let you go. The next video is just a short video on how to make wireframes from a WordPress theme. It's only 4 minutes long, and after that you can get started on your homework.